Deep within the emerald heart of a forgotten forest, a silence had fallen. Not a peaceful silence, mind you. This was a dead silence, the kind that makes your skin prickle, where the very air feels empty. The birds had vanished. The insects had ceased their humming chorus. The ecosystem was on the brink of collapse, a patient bleeding out on the forest floor. And so, the architects of salvation were called in. Their prescription, a radical, scaly procedure. 10,000 surgeons of the undergrowth. 10,000 serpents. The logic, you see, was elegantly simple. A plague of rats, a furry tsunami of teeth and tails, was devouring the forest's future, eating the seeds that would become the next generation of trees. No predators remained to check their numbers. So, humanity, in its infinite wisdom, decided to play God. They would reintroduce the apex predator, the perfect natural balance. The snake, not just any snakes, but a specific, non-venomous constrictor, perfectly adapted to the environment. On paper, it was a masterpiece of ecological engineering. But the forest, as it turns out, doesn't read our papers. The day of the great uncoiling dawned. Picture it, crates upon crates, stacked high, pulsing with a collective, silent energy. Officials gave speeches. Cameras flashed and then the lids were lifted. What poured forth was not a river, but a living, breathing tide of scales. A kaleidoscope of coiled muscle and flickering, forked tongues, tasting the air of their new kingdom. It was a spectacle of biblical proportions. A slithering exodus into the waiting green. They vanished into the leaf litter, into hollow logs, into the damp, dark earth. The saviors had been deployed. The forest, everyone assumed, was saved. But the architects had failed to account for one, tiny, terrifying variable. Snakes, you see, are not altruists, they are survivalists of the highest order. And they have their own agenda. At first, the plan worked with a terrifying, beautiful efficiency. The rats, caught in a gauntlet of silent, muscular death, saw their numbers plummet. The forest began to breathe a tentative sigh of relief. Seedlings, untouched, pushed through the soil. But this was the calm before the storm, a storm of scales. You see, the architects had provided a feast, but they forgot to ask the snakes when they were full. A snake's appetite is ambitious, and with the rat population thoroughly handled, the 10,000 saviors began to look elsewhere for their groceries. The songbirds were the first to go. Their morning choruses were replaced by an unsettling quiet, punctuated only by the occasional panicked flutter. The lizards, the frogs, the small, harmless creatures that had somehow survived the ratpocalypse, they all began to vanish into the ever-expanding gullets of their supposed protectors. The snakes, growing fat and bold, were no longer just pest control. They had become the pestilence. The cure was rapidly proving deadlier than the disease. And then, they began to explore. The forest, it seemed, was no longer enough. The first sign was a chicken coop on a bordering farm, found empty save for a single, immensely satisfied python coiled contentedly in the nesting box. Then, the family cat, a formidable hunter in its own right, simply didn't come home one evening. The suburbs, nestled against the woods, began to whisper of shadows that moved with a liquid grace, of a rustle in the rose bushes that didn't belong. The saviors were at the door, and they weren't knocking. The very roads, warmed by the sun, became their favorite basking spots, causing traffic to screech to a halt for slithering roadblocks of monstrous proportions. The ecosystem was now a runaway train, and the conductors were all legless. It was a masterclass in unintended consequences, a darkly humorous lesson in the chaos of playing God. We tried to write a simple story of good versus evil, but the snakes, it turned out, couldn't read the script. They were writing their own. And the final, most chilling chapter of this story, it wasn't the pets, or the poultry, or even the panic. It was what they left behind. A forest, once dying from a lack of life, was now different. The rats were gone, yes, but so was everything else. The silence had returned. Only this time, it wasn't a dead silence. It was a watchful one, a patient one, a silence filled with 10,000 pairs of unblinking eyes, waiting in the leaves, reminding us that in the game of nature, the house always wins. And so, what is the legacy of the great serpent salvation? The forest is green once more, but it is a different kind of green, deeper, colder, a kingdom reclaimed not by the chirp of a bird or the scurry of a squirrel, but by the silent, sovereign rule of the scale and the flickering tongue. The architects have long since left, their charts and models filed away under catastrophically well-intentioned. The farms have built higher fences, the suburbs keep their porch lights on all night, and a walk in the woods is now undertaken with a cautious eye on the path ahead and a nervous ear tuned to the rustle in the undergrowth. We wanted to be heroes. We wanted to fix a broken world with a grand, sweeping gesture. But nature doesn't do gestures, it does balance. And it turns out that balance has a bite and a rather disconcerting ability to squeeze the life out of our best laid plans. The forest was saved, in a way, but it is no longer our forest. It belongs to the shadows now, and the 10,000 kings we crowned ourselves. So, what chilling tale of human ambition gone awry should we unravel next? The comment section below is a vault of secrets waiting to be opened. Share your ideas for the next documentary, and if you dare to peer further into the shadows, subscribe for your weekly dose of unintended consequences.